Mel Albin. I'm the host and the founder of the Jazz Confusion
My
Power
name
Hour.
is Dion Parson, and I'm honored to share my passion of music with you, our listening audience, through my cultural heritage.
Things can change for you too. If you want to be brand new, that is absolutely possible.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Jazz Confusion Power Hour. I'm your host, Mel Albin, and I'm the founder of the Power Hour. And I created the Power Hour because artists no longer have an audience on radio where you can get to know them. It's become more and more difficult. So I created the Power Hour so you can get behind the mind of the artist, get to know how they go about creating the music that you love. And basically, I'm taking you backstage to see how they prepare their music, both for recording and also for concerts. So, I think you'll enjoy the show. For those of you that have been here before, you know that we have a lot of outstanding artists. The Source TV radio network that broadcasts the Power Hour is a 501c3 charitable foundation. And we support jazz and also Black and minority micro businesses too small to be on Shopify or too small to be on Amazon. And we try to build scale so that they get on the radar of the Small Business Administration and other financial institutions so they can develop family wealth and bring wealth to the community. We depend on listener contributions and donations. We have sponsors that cover the cost of advertising and broadcasting, and also the artists that appear on our shows also mutually support us as we support them. So any donations that you make are greatly appreciated. And remember, they're always tax-free. Now, the Power Hour has had over 150 amazing guests, many well-known and some becoming well-known. We've had both musicians, vocalists, and we've had other people like managers and engineers in the music industry on our show too, and songwriters as well. Some of the artists on the Power Hour include Eric Roberson, Mesa, Brian Culbertson, Paul Brown, Raheem DeVaughn, Reagan Whiteside, Alex Harris, Samara Joy, Greg Adams, Jeff Beck, Tom Brown, Costella, Pieces of a Dream, Kamasi Washington, Kiko Matsui, Kim Scott, Sheryl Crow, Blake Aaron, Maria Antoinette, Annie Lennox, Terry Wollman, Her, Celine Johnson, Aaron Stevenson, the late Bobby Caldwell, Jeff Beck, Dion Parson, Tammy McCann, and Mickey Howard, and many others. I wanted to go through the list with you. I know it's lengthy, just to give everybody an idea of the kind of artists and the kind of talent that we have on the Power Hour. And tonight's no exception. You'll love tonight's special guest artist, as I do. Tonight's special guest was born on December 6, 1985 in East Chicago, Indiana, which is kind of a suburb of Chicago, Illinois. Her connection to music revealed itself early. By the age of 4, she was already singing her first solo in church. And from that moment on, singing became a constant in her life. She grew up immersed in gospel, choirs, nurturing a deep love for music that followed her through her school years and high school and the high school choir. Tonight is, again, she's an amazing artist. While living in Henderson, Nevada, she became part of a Grammy Award-winning high school choir, an experience that further established her belief that music was her calling. Even as a child, she carried big dreams of singing on stage with a live band, dreams she now lives out every day, and she has great gratitude and joy from her career. Alongside her passion for music, she discovered something unusual at a very young age, a profound calm around death. At least 4 or 5 years old, she wandered into a funeral home, walking all the way to the embalming room, and instead of fear, she found peace. That moment planted the seed for a lifelong interest in mortuary science, a field she continues to honor alongside her music career. An international recording artist and powerhouse vocalist, blending classic R&B, sophistication, and with modern soul. Based in Las Vegas, she has toured and performed worldwide, sharing stages with legends including Barbara Streisand, Hank, Maya Rio, James, Marsha Ambrosius, Lyfe Jennings, Avant, Phil Perry, and Ronnie Laws. with headlining performances across Japan, Brazil, China, Korea, and Europe. In 2005, InterContinental Music awarded her the Best in R&B Song. She was on tour with Evelyn Champagne King, alongside appearances with Will Smith and Rob Schneider. She's also known for her dynamic live shows and acclaimed tribute production, including a celebrated Whitney Houston tribute, I Want to Dance with Somebody. A brand new single, Samba Love, released January 2026, delivers a sultry global groove that blends R&B with Brazilian-inspired rhythms, continuing her streak of international chart success and strong radio support. With a voice rooted in timeless soul and a presence that commands the stage, she creates music that feels both nostalgic and fresh. She connects generations through authenticity, emotion, and undeniable vocal excellence. So please welcome tonight's guest, the one and only Alli Starr. Welcome, Alli.
Hi, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I just gave everybody a very long introduction to who you are, and I think they're going to find your music fascinating and wonderful. You know, we'll talk about this a little bit later when we get to Samba Love and the Brazilian influences. One of my longtime friends has been Paul Simon, who did the Brazilian album Rhythm of the Saints. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, so we'll talk a lot about that. Now, I'd like to start off. Why don't you tell everybody what's cooking for 2026? What are you doing? New releases, recording in the studio, performances. Fill everybody in.
So I'm actually doing all of that. I'm currently working on the album, which is going to be entitled Situationship. And as you know, I've already released a song called Situationship, so that will be the title of the album. So we're currently working on that, and that should really be finished probably like the end of May. We should be ready with the album. And then, of course, I have all my live shows. I have 2 residencies in Las Vegas at the Cork and Thorn and a residency at the Wine Garden on every other Thursday, which I have a show tonight after the interview. So I'm always doing something.
Oh, that's great. You know, so sounds like you have an interesting 2026 already underway.
Yes.
Well, tell me something. I want people to get to know you as how you became Alli Starr. How did you become the artist? Where were you born? Was there music in your household? Why don't you tell somebody about your early childhood years and music that became so important to you?
Well, I actually started singing at the age of 4. I had my first solo in church, and music for me has always been a thing. Now, my mother does not sing. She cannot hold a lick of a note. But as I learned later down in the years, my father and his brothers, they all sing, and they had a group that they were in. So I had no idea that inherently from one side of my family that music was a thing. But my mom's sister used to play music while I was inside of her stomach every single day. And when I came out, she used to sing to me every single day. So I think that's really, really, truly where the influence of music really started for me.
And then you started singing in the church choir, is that correct?
Yes, at 4 years old, I had my very first solo in church.
And after that, in public school, were you in the choir, or did you do any music?
I didn't necessarily in like elementary and middle school. I did like talent shows, and then I was a part of a gospel community choir within my city. But it wasn't until I moved to Las Vegas during my high school years where I joined a choir at Green Valley High School, which eventually ended up winning a Grammy. So we became a Grammy performing choir.
Wow, that's great. Did you have any voice coaching?
No.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of the artists I've had on this show, and a lot of artists of significant renown, they never had a single vocal coach. So a lot of people, it's just a natural talent. It's a gift.
Absolutely. Some people got it that way, and some people Need a vocal coach. I am not above using one because it definitely helps, especially as I get older. Sometimes you have to fine tune your chops.
Yeah, I do find that a lot of artists, when they've been singing for a while, that's when they decide they want to see a vocal coach. They don't do it initially, but they do it later
Right.
on because they want to improve their breathing. Because I mean, your voice changes over time,
Yes.
and so it's like people often check in with a vocal coach. But um, well, after you finished high school, what came next?
So immediately after high school, I was on my way to Dallas, Texas, to go to the Dallas Funeral Institute for Mortuary Science. And a friend of mine, who is a guitar player named Albin, he asked me to go to a rehearsal of his. And I don't know, I got a wild hair up my butt that day and was like, sure, I'll go to your rehearsal because that's not something I was into doing. So I went to the rehearsal and I'm sitting there in the back just minding my business. And the lead singer was, she's this beautiful African American woman. And she comes out of the room and she looks at me immediately and she's like, do you sing? And I said, I know how to sing, but that's not my thing. I'm not here for that. So she said, well, sing something for me. So the band started playing an old school song. I can't even remember. This was like 25 years ago. Um, and I knew the song. And then she was impressed and she told the band to play something else. And every single song that the band played, I knew, and I knew how to sing it well. And at that moment, she was just like, you need to go on the road with me as my backup singer. And I'm like, what? No one's ever approached me about singing for real like that. And here I am. I'm on my way to school, like within the next 30 days, literally. And of course, when you get those opportunities handed to you, your mind goes crazy, like, oh my God, what do I do? You know, I come from a traditional household, so high school, college is next.
Right.
But now the stage is calling. And that's a different type of connection. So I made the decision to go out on the road with her, and I was 17 years old.
Wow. And how long did that last?
I stayed with her probably about a year and a half before I transitioned to singing backup for someone else. But that literally catapulted my music career. And I didn't go to Dallas.
So, where would you date your first Alli Starr performance, your very first professional performance that you look back on as being influential or a turning point for you?
Well, Alli Starr actually developed in 2017. I've always just been Alex, which is, part of my government name, which is Alexandria. So I grew up as Alex in the business, but Alli Starr developed in 2017 through a friend of mine's. But my very first professional performance that I can remember that stood out would be there's a former casino in Las Vegas called the Stardust, and a radio station here called Power 88 used to hold like an industry mix and mingle after work. And everybody who was anybody in the city would come out to this mix and mingle and enjoy live entertainment. And so the gentleman that I was singing backup for had a show on this particular mix and mingle. And I just remember all the love that I got, and it really truly made me want to become an artist based off the feedback that I was getting. Like, I was a little star on the stage, and plus I was new in town. No one knew who I was. So when you're the newbie in the business, everybody's gravitating to you. And it was a little bit overwhelming because, mind you, I'm like 18 years old at this point, and I'm not even 21. I'm not legal. I'm not supposed to be in here. So we kind of want to keep the focus off of me a little bit to not get in trouble. But I got my real first taste of like celebrity status then, and I knew that music bug had really had a hold on me.
So where did mortuary science fit into all this?
So even though I still did music, somehow I found a way to, I didn't finish school, but I ended up doing makeup on the dead bodies for different funeral homes. So I found my way back into mortuary science some type of way because, as you mentioned earlier, there is something calming about death for me. I'm not afraid of it at all. When I'm, doing makeup on a deceased person, I'm singing to them, I'm talking to them, I'm praying for them. It's like a really wonderful experience for me to have the honor of getting someone ready for their final party is how I like to look at it.
Okay. I must admit, I've never had an artist that was skilled in mortuary science, and also you're the first. So, all right. Well, look, I want to get into some of your music because everybody I know wants to hear it. And the first song we have tonight is My Sagittarius. So why don't you tell everybody the backstory in that song before we play it?
So My Sagittarius was written by myself along with Tim Bailey, and it features jazz saxophonist Marcus Anderson on there. And the song was written about a former love of mine who happens to be a Sagittarius as well as I am. And when two Sagittarius get together, the connection is really, really strong.
And who wrote the song? Did you write it, co-write it?
I wrote the lyrics and Tim Bailey wrote the music.
Wrote the music, okay. And when was that song? When did it come out as a single, or was it part of your LP?
It came out as a single in December of 2024, I believe.
Terrific. Okay. Well, let's all listen to My Sagittarius by Alli Starr, and then we'll be back to talk some more. That was great. I love that. Yeah, you have some comments from people already. Here's
Oh, I
one.
have some comments as well.
Carol Stark, love the arrangement and great intro.
Thanks, Carol.
Leslie Patterson, do you play an instrument?
I do not per se play an instrument, but what I can do is I can sing everything that I want played. So when I'm writing a song, I'm actually singing out everything to one of my producers and one of my musicians to play.
Even as an instrumental, you do that?
Uh-huh.
Wow, that's cool. Here's another comment. Kenny Gold, love the groove.
Thanks, Kenny.
All right. Well, you got people already enjoying your music. So let's give them some more. Let's tell them some more about you and give them some more music at the same time. You performed on stage with some really greats in multi-genres. Why don't you tell us about some highlights from people you performed with on stage and how some of that came about?
So currently, I still go out on the road with Evelyn Champagne King. Amazing
Yeah.
woman artist. I love her. I grew up on her music, so I just have to say, I love singing behind old school artists, especially when I grew up on their music, because it's so nostalgic for me. And to be able to be standing up there and supporting them is mind blowing, and I absolutely love it. So I have a great time with her. She's one of my favorites. She really is.
Yeah, I'm curious if you were raised on gospel, how did you get into jazz and R&B? How did that transition happen?
Secular music was still played in my household, even though I come from such a religious background. I had best of both worlds. I still had gospel, but I still had the traditional R&B and jazz as well in the home.
So growing up with jazz and R&B, who were some of your early musical influences?
Well, as you know, I do a Whitney Houston tribute. Literally have been listening to Whitney since I was born. Whitney came out in 1985, and I was born in 1985.
Okay.
And my aunt literally played Whitney from the time I was born. So she has a huge musical influence over my life.
And I know you appeared on stage with Barbara Streisand. Did she have any influence on your early musical development?
Not early, later. Once I got into choir in high school, is when I was introduced to Barbara Streisand and standards in the music. So I learned about her later on in life, but my appreciation for Barbara Streisand is a musical giant.
You know, it's so funny you mentioned that, because when she came out with the song Evergreen, I had never heard a voice like that. I mean, the clarity, her perfect pitch. It was just an amazing song, and she's just been an amazing artist over the years. So you picked a couple of good ones to emulate. So, I want to play the second song for everybody, Summertime. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll continue talking a little more.
So Summertime, I wrote Summertime at the height of COVID, actually, because as an artist, as you know, we all were in the house. There were no tours, there were no concerts, there were no live shows. We were in the house. And this was, when the world was really, truly shut down. And I just thought about, I wanted to be a kid again. Gosh, I just want to go outside and skateboard and hopscotch and everything that you used to do as a kid. I was longing for it because we were stuck and mandated to be in the house. And it's gosh, I would give anything to take advantage of my childhood again, just to be outside. So I wrote that song in reminiscence of that.
Okay. And what year and that was in 2020?
It was in 2020.
Now, I know you spent time in Japan. Was that before or after?
That was before COVID.
Okay. We'll talk about Japan also. I want everybody to learn more about that part of your life too. But let's play Summertime for everybody. This is Alli Starr and Summertime.
Summertime, I can't wait to get back. Back in the days when we used to go outside and play. fly, wishing that he would. Sure just make my way, just kicking it all day. Thinking now it's time to get on your bike. Booty shots feeling kinda extra tight. I just wanna go back. Hopscotch, basketball, kickball. Let's go back. Kicking it, chilling with my friends. Let's go back. Roller skates, lemonade, escapade. Let's go back. I said I wanna go back. Back in summertime.
That's great. That's a great track. You got I think another comment from somebody. Lonnie Shepherd. You bring the funk, girl.
That's a funky track for sure.
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is. You know, I wanted to talk a little bit about just before the pandemic. You had spent a considerable amount of time in Japan. And why don't you tell people about that period of your life and what you experienced there?
So Japan is one of my favorite, if not my favorite place that I've ever lived, traveled to. I was there for the March 11, 2011 earthquake. And that was my first ever experience with an earthquake before. Like, imagine that's your first experience, and that was, it being that big. So during that time, there was the Fukushima disaster happening, and our government contacted my partner and I and asked us to leave Japan because it wasn't safe because of the radiation. And at the time, I was performing at the Ritz-Carlton in Osaka, and all of their members from the Ritz-Carlton in Tokyo that were displaced were sent to Osaka. And I just remembering seeing all those people not knowing what to do next because they had no home to go to, lost family members. It was a really sad time. And I just felt like if I could lift somebody up through music, through this disaster, then this is where I'm supposed to be. So I made a conscious decision not to leave Japan and stay there and continue to work.
Did you feel that you were in a safe environment?
I felt safe, although I was nervous about more ongoing earthquakes, which we did have another one like a month later. But honestly, I believe in what God has for me is for me. And when it's my time, it's my time. Remember, I don't fear death. So it's not one of those things where I was, so much afraid. I just really wanted to be a vessel to the people that just went through something traumatic. And I just wanted to stay in health.
Well, I'm curious, and there may not be any relationship, but you had an illness that you went through that you had to fight through and recover. You want to share some of that with everybody?
Sure. I have a heart condition. It's called supraventricular tachycardia. It's commonly known as SVT, as well as atrial fibrillation, which is commonly known as AFib. And those two things led me to getting a pacemaker in 2018. So I currently live with a pacemaker and a heart condition.
And did they say the heart condition was congenital?
So heart disease does run in my family, but I am the only person in my family that has this particular heart disease and a pacemaker.
Okay, well, I have AFib, and I've had stents put in 2001, and I'm still here. So, but you know, it's interesting. How long did that affect your career? Were you out of music for any period of time?
So I developed this heart disease in 2015. I think I was like 29 years old. So up until that point, I had no clue. It was just all of a sudden, I passed out, and I kept passing out after shows, never during the show, always afterwards. And I figured it was because after I'm done, you know, and my adrenaline was coming down, it was too much in my heart. And safely and thankfully, I always passed out at home. So I have this running joke that I say, you know, I made a bet with God, like, listen, I understand I have this heart condition, but you know my heart for music. If you can just never, ever let me pass out while driving and never, ever let me pass out during the show, I'll take on whatever you give me. And knock on wood, so far, I have never passed out during the show, and I've never passed out driving.
Well, since you've had the pacemaker, has your condition stabilized?
It has. Mm-hmm.
Good. Well, wonderful. You know, I've had other people who have had to take a hiatus because they've had an illness, and you know, it changes them in some ways as artists. Did it change you at all?
It did. It really did. I have to be honest and say, once I learned of my heart condition, I took things a little slower. I think a lot of people, if you ever see my live shows, a lot of people have a misconception that I sit down in my shows because I have a heart condition. That's actually not true. I sit down in my shows because I'm very, very personable with my audience. I always call it like my living room. And rather me running across the stage and dancing and stuff, my audience really appreciates the fact that I'm having a one-on-one conversation with them through music. So as an artist, it changed me in that way to pay attention not only to my body, but pay attention to what people around me wanted from me. What made the most sense in my artistry that made it more comfortable for me.
You know, that's interesting because some of the greats, Frank Sinatra would often sit down on a chair on stage and sing from a chair, and Dean Martin did, and Perry Como on his TV show. You know, it's not unusual, and it is engaging. It does really change the relationship between you and your audience. It does make it much more personal. Yeah. So it's interesting you picked up on that you do that. So let's talk a little bit about songwriting. Okay, we've heard two of your songs already, and you're described as a singer-songwriting. How do you create a song? And you know, does it come into your mind? Do you take notes and write things down? What's the process typically in your creative side as a songwriter?
So far, the process for my songwriting has been through lived experiences. All my songs have been about something that I've gone through, and I take from that and I turn it into music.
Well, but how do you go about it? Do you write lyrics and then ask somebody to put music to it, or you know, how does it usually come about into a full song?
So, as I said earlier, I hear the music in my head, and although I'm not a musician, I'll take my phone and I'll turn on my recorder, and like for my newest song, Samba Love, for whatever reason, I couldn't get this melody out my head. So I just took my phone and I was dun, 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 dun. So I know what I want to be played, and I build upon that as I'm writing the lyrics. So I'm humming and I'm literally writing lyrics at the same time. So by the time I'm finished with that, I actually have a full ready song, but it's literally just instrumentations of my voice until I take it to one of my musicians, and then they actually play what I was singing.
Do you have an arranger or a co-writer that you use frequently, or is it?
No. I have a musician that I use quite often. So on Samba Love, a guy by the name of Dave Rogers, he played every single instrument that you hear live. And he's my go-to guy when I want to complete my music.
And are you involved in post-production in the studio? You know, in you know, you are?
I am involved in every single facet of the song from the beginning to the end. I like to know what's happening, all the moving parts, because these are my babies. So
Yeah.
I'm very, very particular about what's happening with my babies. So when it comes time, you know, to the mixing, if I hear something that I don't like, I'm in there like, no, turn that down, turn that up, let's fade that. I'm in every process of it.
Well, let me ask you this, because I've asked artists this and I get a lot of very different answers. How do you know when the song is finished? When do you let go?
So for me, I have a hard time knowing when the song is finished. I always try to change something at the last minute. And Dave will always say, listen, it's not going to get any better than this. You're overthinking it. You're overdoing this. Just let it be. And so I'll usually walk away, give it like 24 hours. And I'll just say, you know what? This is what it is. I have to let go. I have to surrender and move on to the next.
You know, some artists like Bruce Springsteen, he's been known to work on a song for a full year. He just doesn't want to let go until it's exactly how he wants it. And, you know, I had Brian Culbertson on, and Brian was talking about his show, the song he had done. And after it was mixed and mastered and he listened to it, and he just before it was released, he said, "Oh my God, I need a horn in there." he went back into the song and added a horn. You know, but you know, it's different for every artist. Some artists have a real difficult time, you know, letting that song go. They over-engineer it sometimes because they don't want to let go of it. So it's a difficult decision. And people don't realize the thought that goes into when is this song ready. You know, I think I've lost you. Oh, I've lost your voice, Ali. Can you hear me? I think I'm going to play the next song, which is your big hit. And if you can hear me, log out. If not, I'll log you out, and you can log back in afterwards. But I want to play Samba Love for everybody, and then afterwards you can tell everybody about it. So here is Samba Love by Alli Starr.
Every
You're back.
You know, we had a whole power outage.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains it.
Yeah, our generator just
I,
clicked back on, so I was able to hop back on.
I just played Samba Love. You have a couple of comments, and I want you to talk about that a little bit. Here are the comments. Justin Caulfield, love the Brazilian rhythm.
Ah,
Love your voice. Wow, Lucy Diamond.
thanks, Lucy.
So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Samba Love?
Samba Love. So what I'm doing right now is I have now entered the world of smooth jazz. So I'm officially a smooth jazz artist. And so I am starting a new genre, which I'm calling it basso, which is a merge of bossa nova and soul. So that's what you hear with Samba Love, and that is pretty much what the album will look like. Samba Love is a precursor to what the album will look and feel like, with the merging of bossa nova, and soul music.
Okay, now this is fascinating to me. How did you go to Boss Soul? What was your inspiration for this?
Situationship. If you listen to Situationship, um, it has all of the feels. And for me, as long as I've been doing R&B and old school music, nothing felt more comfortable to me than merging into this new genre.
Well, tell me, how do you connect this genre to smooth jazz, and why, and how do you see the tradition, the change in your music, the transition from the music you did before to what now you're calling smooth jazz? Explain a little bit about how you see this transition.
So it still falls within the smooth jazz lane. Like with my Sagittarius, I use jazz instrumentalist Marcus
Mhm.
Anderson to merge those jazz influences with the horns, or one of my next single coming out will have a jazz guitarist on it, which I can't say at the moment, but still blending all of those smooth jazz influences and mixing it with bossa nova and R&B.
And what motivated you to make this shift?
I saw that the lane wasn't created. You have your traditional smooth jazz artist, and there's not, for me, that I have found, there's not a lot of smooth jazz vocalists. There are plenty of smooth
That's
jazz musicians, but there's
absolutely.
not a lot of smooth jazz vocalists. So I just wanted to be able to start my own lane, open up a lane for other artists and creative, because I'm sure they'll be coming right up under me to do the same thing. But it was just something that had not been done yet.
I thought that was going to be your motivation, because the one thing that has long time plagued me about smooth jazz, because they don't venture into vocals, they don't venture into some South American rhythms. It's somewhat repetitious, and it's lost its edginess that jazz once had. What you're doing is so needed, and it's so important, it's great. And what you're doing is, there's a thing called in marketing called a blue ocean strategy. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but
No.
a blue ocean strategy says, why do I want to compete? I'd rather be on the ocean all by myself with no competition. I can fish, I can do everything I want with nobody. Why should I compete if I don't have to? And
Right.
and, and that's what you're opening up. You're opening something up that is so needed, and you need to really market this well, because it can have a major influence on smooth jazz. I think it's a great idea, especially bringing some of the Latin beats, Latin rhythms.
Yeah,
So
merging those two, just it feels really good. Like when you hear it, it's a rhythm. It's a dance.
yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with. I mentioned this, I think, before the show started. Rhythm of the Saints, Paul Simon's Brazilian,
Yeah.
his tribute to Brazilian music. He did the South African music, also, initially, and got rave reviews for that. I thought the Brazilian work, which didn't get the same accolades, was even better. I thought it was brilliant. And there are so many great Brazilian influences in jazz. So, combining the smooth jazz with the Brazilian influences and vocals, I think you're really onto something.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, that's just great. Let me ask you a thought question at this point. I'm just curious about who you would think would be the biggest influence in your musical career. If you could collaborate with any musician, vocalist, songwriter, composer, arranger, producer from any century, anywhere in the world, who would be number one on your bucket list? Who would you love to work with, or tell us about it a little bit?
So there's actually two. I can't just really narrow which one. There's actually two, and they both are currently still alive. And the person would be Babyface. Okay. I mean, what artist wouldn't want to work with Babyface, honestly?
Okay.
And the second one would be Michael Franks.
Michael Franks. Tell us about that. I know who he is, but tell us about that.
I am a huge Michael Franks fan. I've been listening to Michael Franks probably since I was 16, when I walked into a record store and I heard Popsicle Toes.
Ah, yeah.
Yes. And from the moment that I heard Popsicle Toes, I got all of Michael Franks' music, and just his songwriting, his storytelling, his musicality, and how he also blends different genres of music within his music. And I would absolutely love an opportunity to work with him before he finishes his journey in music. He's so brilliant. So brilliant.
So the two you chose, Babyface and Michael Franks, would you say they've influenced your musical style at all?
Babyface has definitely influenced my musical style early on within the traditional R&B of what I put out. And now this new genre of music that I'm doing now is definitely being influenced from the sounds that I've listened to within Michael Franks and different other artists growing up now.
Wonderful. Well, look, this has really been a really interesting interview with me. I really have enjoyed this tremendously. I want to get to your recent release that kind of crystallizes your smooth jazz Brazilian fusion that you're working on. And, so it's Samba Love. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Samba Love?
So Samba Love is about a dance of love, two people reminiscing on love through dance, talking about the rhythm of love and how it intertwines within the heart, and merging those Brazilian sounds, which makes you naturally want to move your hips. And that's the goal. I want you to naturally fall into a rhythm. You don't even have to know how to dance, but I want my music to make you feel like you can go out there and do the samba, the cha-cha, whatever, because you just feel so good when you hear it. That's the goal behind Samba Love.
Wonderful. Love that. And who did you co-write this with someone?
No, I actually wrote all of this myself.
Wonderful. Well, look, this is Alli Starr and her most recent release that's doing very well, Samba Love. So let's listen to this.
Every
I love that.
Thank
Love
you.
it. You keep getting comments coming in. Here's another one. Carly Mendelssohn, love the Brazilian fusion and your arrangement and your voice. Where can I get this?
It's out on all digital platforms everywhere.
Terrific. Well, everybody's really loving your music tonight. Yeah, so I'm so glad you had some time to spend with us tonight. I really appreciate it. I'm sure
Oh,
all
I'm
your new
loving it.
fans, yeah, all your new fans are going to appreciate this also. So let's talk a little bit more about some of your collaborations. You've worked with Danny Boy, Keith Harris of the Black Eyed Peas. What were these projects like, and how did you get involved?
Danny Boy is like my brother. Also from Chicago. Amazing, amazing vocalist. He actually moved to Las Vegas and was in my band. So we did a lot of live shows together, and he's just a vocal powerhouse. I love him.
Terrific. All right. Well, good. I want to play your last song. We're starting to run out of time. Time is always our enemy in the show,
Right.
because there's so much I want to always talk to people about. Just briefly, tell people about your Whitney Houston tribute, where you're going to be doing it next, and how you got into that. It's called "I Want to Dance with Somebody." So tell everybody about that.
Yeah, so I have this Whitney Houston tribute show entitled I Want to Dance with Somebody. And back in 2012, when Whitney had passed away in February, actually her death anniversary was yesterday. I have twins, and my twins were born December of 2011. And I was gearing to go back to Japan to do my shows. And when she passed away, I just knew that I was going to have to sing I'll Always Love You like 10 times a night, because they're very, very serious about Whitney in Japan. And so I'm like, if I can get through singing her song 10 times a night without crying, because as an artist, we grieve other artists as well when they pass away. So it was very difficult. I came up with the idea that I could do a tribute show to her. And so I put it together.
That's wonderful. That's a great story. Well, look, I want to play your last song, and then maybe we'll have a few minutes to say goodnight to everybody. So I want to play the song "Why." So tell people a little bit about why.
Why was written in about 5 minutes and 50 seconds. I had just went through a nasty breakup, and I was already headed to the studio to record a love song. And with the trajectory of what had just happened, I walked in that studio and I completely changed the course of the mood. And I wrote "Why" and released the song.
Okay, well, that's a real personal one then. So, yeah. Okay, everybody, this is Alli Starr, her song "Why."
All these pictures on the wall, replace them all with paintings. No communication, I'm just stuck here with my feelings. Memories, that's all we have. And love we once had. Is it a reason why we came here? Is it a reason why we got here? We could have reached for the stars above. We could have changed the signs of love. Is it a reason why we got here? When I came, it was all for love. No, I didn't sign up for that. Now my emotions mixed up. Situations, but I made it. Congratulations, all these imperfections, that was my motivation. Thank you, you was just my inspiration. I done been through enough hell to start a fire. I done heard some shit, you a liar. It's downhill from here, downward spiral. I tried to lift you up from here, elevator. Now I done made some mistakes. It was a season. We can't keep going back and forth. Fuck the reasons. Baby, tell me how. How the hell we get here? Is it a reason why we came here? Is it a reason why we got here? We could have reached for the stars above. We could have changed the signs of love. Is it a reason why we got here? Whoa. When I came, it was all for love. All for love. Now I done signed up for that. Now my emotions mixed up. My emotions mixed up. I done been through situations, but I made it. Congratulations, all these imperfections. That was my motivation. Thank you. You was just my inspiration.
Wonderful. A quick question for you. When you do or some of the recordings we played tonight, are they a live band in the studio, or do you have artists sending tracks?
So for Samba Love was live, but everything else was studio.
Okay. And you have the full band in the studio all together?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was listening carefully to the music, and even Samba Love or even the other songs, I can tell when it's a full band. Usually, when you have artists sending tracks, there's something missing in the magic of a band playing together.
Yes.
But that's what it's done so often today. It's so commonplace. So here are some comments. Lois Lassiter, no pain, no gain.
I love it.
That fits perfectly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Ramon Suarez, your voice is beautifully melodic.
Thank you, Ramon.
Well, look, Ali, I enjoyed the evening tremendously, and people got to hear your music. And we've had a really large audience tonight. I'm sure you picked up a lot of new fans. And as you drop some new music, always keep me in mind, and I'll have you back on, and we can play your new music. And I want to ask you another question. Do you know a friend of mine? She's an artist in Las Vegas, Yulia. She's a pianist.
No, I don't think so.
You should. Okay, I got to introduce you to some people. Yulia is in Las Vegas. She comes from Russia. She's a Russian-trained classical pianist, and she plays jazz.
Nice. Okay, I'd love to meet her.
Yeah, I'll introduce you to some people. So, look, it's been a real pleasure, real pleasure, and I definitely want to have you back. So, good luck, and we'll see you again.
Thank you, Mel, for having me and sharing your platform with us artists. We really appreciate it.
Well, before you go, tell everybody how they can become a fan. How can they reach you?
You can find me on Instagram under Alli Starr 1. That's ALLISTARR and the number 1. Or on Facebook just as Alli Starr, ALLISTARR.
Wonderful. All right. Well, Alli, again, thank you so much, and we'll definitely be in touch.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Well, that was wonderful. That was Alli Starr. She's a tremendous vocalist and musician. Next week, we're going to have a good friend of mine, Bob Cutarella. Bob has 160 platinum records on his wall. He's co-written, published, or produced over 3,000 songs. He's a 15-time Grammy nominee, a 3-time Grammy winner. I can't say more about Bob. He's been a giant in the music industry for many years. And Bob and I are going to do an interesting show. Our plan is to introduce you to music and recordings that should have been #1 hits, but nobody ever heard. And we're going to play it for you and see what you think. So tune in next week again, and everybody have a wonderful, wonderful week. And thank you for watching, the Jazz Confusion Power Hour I'm Mel Albin saying good night and stay well to everybody.
I'm Mel Albin. I'm the host and the founder of the Jazz Confusion Power
My name
Hour.
is Dion Parson, and I'm honored to share my passion of music with you, our listening audience, through my cultural heritage.
Things can change for you too. If you want to be brand new, that is absolutely possible.